The PW-6 is a common training glider, and in addition to being a good trainer in the air for brand new students, it also teaches some really important concepts here on the ground because we can actually look inside the instruments and see how everything is connected together so that we get a better understanding of how the pitot-static system works on a glider. Let's look at the outside first. You have your pitot tube, which captures the ram air for airspeed. On either side of the nose here, we have 1 and 2 static ports. And then I'll show you the total energy probe at the back. Above me here is the total energy probe, which extends far enough away from the glider that it can measure the undisturbed airflow for the variometer. One of the features that makes the PW-6 so good for understanding the pitot-static system is that on the canopy, the glare shield is actually attached to it. So every time we open the canopy, we actually get to see behind the instrument panel. Now, let's look at how each of these pressure lines feeds the different instruments. The static port comes up here, and you can see it branches off in 2 different places because it has to feed all the different instruments. We've got our altimeter here, which is fed by our static line. Next to it, we've got our airspeed, and it's got both a static line, S for static, and pitot line here that goes to it. As we come to the right, our mechanical vario uses the static line here coming off from this little 4-way branch, and then it's also fitted to the capacitance bottle right here. You can see it's orange. That's foam on there, so that way it's not affected by changes in temperature. It's an insulated capacitance bottle. Our transponder also has a line from the static system, so that way it knows how high we are off the ground to be able to tell other aircraft how high we are to avoid potentially running into anyone. Finally, we have our electric vario here. You can see both wires and a line that go to it. The light blue line here is from the total energy probe, and then it has these wires run downward to where an air data sensor is measuring both the pitot and the static pressures. So that way it can give us an accurate measurement and be as useful as possible. When we look inside, we can see all of those same features that we saw on the outside of the glider, but now we can see how they're actually connected to our instruments that we use. On the sides, where we pointed out the static ports, one on the right and there's another on the left. They come into this hose, this tubing, that they're connected together in a little T-junction, and they go inward so that way they can feed the static sources that need it. From the very front of the glider, we have the pitot tube is connected to this hose here, so it can go back and feed the airspeed indicator coming from the very nose of the glider coming back. And then from behind, we have the total energy probe line, which runs forward and again feeds these instruments. We'll now look at each of the individual instruments and see where it's getting its information from. Here is our instrument panel, and we have 5 instruments and avionics that use the pitot-static system in some way. We'll go from left and right to see how each of them uses that. Starting at the left, we have our transponder. It tells our location and our altitude to other aircraft to make it so other aircraft can avoid us in flight. Down here, we have an electric variometer, which tells us our rate of climb or descent to know if we're in a thermal or if we're in sync. Electric variometers are nice because not only do they produce an audio signal, so you don't have to be looking down to know if you're in lift or sync, but also you can change the sensitivity of them in flight. Above it, we have a more traditional mechanical variometer, again, which will tell us about sync and lift, and even if we had a battery failure, this would still continue to work. To the right, we have an airspeed indicator to tell us how fast we're going through the air. And finally, we have a altimeter to tell us how high we are. The pitot-static system is connected together with these pieces of clear plastic tubing, which transmits the pressure, but also, because it's clear, it's very easy to inspect for FOD or other debris in the line to make sure that they're operating properly. Now that you've seen inside the instrument panel of the glider, you can understand how the pitot-static information gives you the information you need as a pilot to fly the glider properly. If you found this content to be useful, please subscribe to the channel for more tips on how you can become a better glider pilot.